Shauna, go ahead and press that button. And I'm going to bring you into the wine room. Oh, hey, Phyllis. PCPR_communicate. Oh, hello, beautiful.
Hey.
How are you?
Hi.
Let
Good,
me
how are you?
real quick. Hi, Shauna.
Hey, Tanya.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Oh, well, you look gorgeous as always.
I have your shirt on.
Ah, hey, lady. Thank you, Shauna. Thank you so much for joining me here this evening in the wine room. It is an absolute pleasure to have you here. But before we get started, we must raise our glasses. Do you have your wine glass?
I do.
Wonderful. We're going to cling, cling, cling. Take a little sip.
A big sip.
Yes, a big sip. And everybody out there in the audience, make sure you have your glass of wine so you can take a big sip as well. All right, my dear. So before we get started, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell everyone who you are and where you're from.
I am Shana Mangatal. I'm originally from Washington, D.C., but I've lived in Los Angeles since 1989. So like 31 years. Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so Shauna and I know each other from our time at the Comedy Store with Guy Torrey. Shout out to Guy.
Hey, Guy.
He used to do a room called Fat Tuesdays, and Shauna and I worked there. And so that was over 20 some odd years ago, but we won't mention any numbers and stuff. But yeah, so that's how you and I became acquainted. And Shauna, I want to say this to you. If ever there's a time that I need someone to hold a secret, you, my dear, are going to be my secret keeper. Because, girl, I had no idea until I read your book. Shauna, I'm like, what? When? How? So yes, my dear, you do know how to keep a secret.
I probably never even mentioned Michael Jackson when we knew each other. And
never.
Yeah, I never mentioned. You had no idea, right?
No, I had no idea. But here's what I did know, is that you knew everyone. Everyone that walked into the Comedy Store, Eddie Murphy, I mean, you name it. You knew everyone. Okay, so before I get there, so I just want to take the viewers on a walk down memory lane. So it's 1988, and your aunt takes you and your friend to, is it the Bad concert? Was it Bad?
Yeah.
Okay. So
at
Madison Square Garden, right? So like many of us teenagers, we're fans of Michael Jackson. So tell me, what was it like, your first experience seeing him live perform?
It was like the best moment of my life up to that point. I was 17 then, and my goodness, it was just magical to see Michael just right in front of my face. Back then, or I should say America, he played small arenas, maybe 17,000 seaters. In Europe, it's huge stadiums. So for us, we got to see him up close and, in person. So when you went to a Michael Jackson concert in America, it was like he was in your living room. And I made my way up to the front row. And it literally was like he was in my living room. And it was just, it was magical. I mean, to be a teenager in the height of Michael Mania in the 80s, and I was in New York City at Madison Square Garden, and it was just the most exciting night of my life. And I saw him. I saw the Bad concert after that. After that amazing experience, I saw it like maybe 10 more times.
Wow.
I'm from DC, so I saw it in New York first, then came to the DC area. I went to like a bunch of shows there. Then I went to the LA shows because by that time, I think I moved to LA. So it was a really long tour. So it was a great time to be a teenager, in the 80s. And Michael was just on top of the world.
Okay, so you mentioned you moved to LA. So you and your best friend, you load up your car, you moved to LA in hopes of becoming a singer. I think that's what you said in your book, right? Yeah. And okay, but that didn't pan out, but you ended up landing, I guess what could be considered a dream job for a person, newly to LA. You're working at the Sandy Galen and Jim Morey agency, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And this agency is probably the biggest, if not the biggest agency in LA at the time. And they represent like everyone. So tell the audience some of the people that they represented.
Oh gosh, we had Martin Lawrence, Dolly Parton, Neil Diamond, Renee Zellweger, Nicole Kidman, Whoopi Goldberg, Paula Abdul, the Pointer Sisters, Matt Davis, everybody.
Everybody.
And
you said Brad Pitt, right?
Brad Pitt wasn't managed by us, but he came into the office. He was nobody. He wasn't
right.
But he was friends with one of the managers there, and she brought him into the office, introduced him to everybody, and he came up to my desk and said, "Hi, I'm Brad." And I was like, "Oh, hi." Right. And right. I heard of Brad Pitt in my life, and right. That he was gorgeous, and he had blue eyes, I think, and I was eating Taco Bell that day. So embarrassed because when you're at the front desk, you want to kind of put on a good front. So when guests would come in, I would like hide my food and stuff and pretend like I wasn't eating. But then like Brad caught me because he like came up from behind or the side, and I was like, just golfing down this Taco Bell taco, and he came when I was doing it, and I was like very embarrassed, but quickly I realized that Brad is a pretty nice guy because he was like, "Oh my God, Taco Bell, that's my favorite ever." Right. Beverly every single day. I love it. Yeah, dude, love Taco Bell. So I've loved Brad Pitt ever since that moment. I was like, cool guy. And then about, I'd say a week or two later, Thelma and Louise came out, and that's when he just became a superstar. And I was like, oh, that's Brad Pitt. So yeah, and then like Elizabeth Taylor, she was one of my boss Sam Gallen's best friends. So all day, every day, and of course, she was friends with Michael as well. So it was like a whole little network of these high-powered legends, basically, who just called all day and who came in all the time. It was literally a dream come true, and it was a dream job. I really don't think I'll ever have a job that great.
Right. So I like to say you were with the millennials called the plug. So, right?
Yeah, I was like 21 when I started there. So it was I was pretty naive as to people who wanted to befriend me to get the plug. I was like, why does it be my friend? This is cool. Because growing up, I really didn't have a lot of friends. I'm really shy. I still am actually shy, introverted. So I wasn't really used to people like wanting to be my friend. So you're working with someone like Michael Jackson, suddenly everyone comes out of the woodworks, and it was actually difficult because a lot of people who I thought were my friends at that time, I learned they really weren't. They were just my friends to try to get next to Michael. So that was different.
Okay, so let's talk about this. So I just imagine you, because the one thing that I did love was hearing your voice as you're telling the story. So guys, if you don't have her book, it's Michael and Me. Download the audiobook so you can hear it from her actual voice. So you talk about a time where Michael calls in, I'm Michael, like I know him, we're on a first name basis, but so Michael Jackson calls in, and by this time you guys had kind of developed a rapport, him calling in, you fielding the calls and all of that. And so this particular time he calls in, and he's like wanting you to take down the lyrics to a song that he's working on. Right? And you said the lyrics are a little racy. Mm-hmm. Right? And so do you remember what the song was? Or
I still have it right here. It was I think it was like 2 pages long. It was a long song. So we were on the phone for like almost an hour. Doing this. He called me. We were, I had gotten cast, although I think this was before I got cast in this short film. It was a short film called Is This Scary? And it was supposed to be the theme song for Addams Family.
Addams Family, right? Mm-hmm.
It was the sequel to Addams Family. And the kids were going to be in, or they were in it actually, Christina Ricci and all the kids from Addams Family. They were in this short film. Stephen King wrote it and all of this. So they needed that song. So that was the song that he it to me. It was called Family Thing. And an innocent enough title, he called me, and just out of the blue, we weren't really close or friends or anything. He just but we had, been like talking, and he was
right.
And so then he called me one day and asked if he could dictate this new song that he had written for this new short film. So I was like, okay. I said, and I remember I said, are you sure you want me to do it, Michael? Because I was just the receptionist. I didn't type. I didn't take dictation. None of that. All I did was answer the phone.
Right.
Yeah, I'd really like for you to do this. So I said, okay. So all the phone calls that were coming in, I had to ignore them, and because Michael was on the phone.
Absolutely.
So he started reading these lyrics to me, and I quickly realized they were like, they had double entendre. It was, yeah, very sexy. And, I was so young and innocent. I was like, I didn't know what was going on. I was like, what's happening here?
Right.
I don't really know what was happening, but yeah, that was like the first moment when I knew that, he liked me the way I liked him. And because the voice that he would use when he did those kind of things, it was like a different kind of like flirty type of voice.
Oh.
Another thing that really stuck out to me was that he was chewing gum just like really fast, and like, like he was excited, but gum that I could hear the most. I guess it was gum, but that really stood out to me. And he would like take long pauses in between every line. I remember he would read me a line, and then I would read it back to him, and then he wouldn't say anything, and then I'd say,
he needed it to settle there.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm ready. And then he'd say, okay, the next line. It was an interesting experience, but then I realized that was how Michael was. You just never knew what to expect day to day from him, and that's what made the job so exciting, and that's what made him so intriguing, and one of the reasons why I just like had a huge crush on him at that point.
Right. Okay, so fast forward a little bit. You have the phone calls. Then it kind of starts to lead to somewhere else where you guys become closer, right? Yeah. And I know you said that during this time you were inexperienced romantically.
Yeah.
You kind of didn't. I don't even think you said you had like your first kiss yet,
yeah.
Right? And then you said you guys shared many firsts.
Yeah.
So I'll leave that with you guys in the audience what those first could be, but you can read it in a book. So was he romantic? Was he macho? Was he direct? Like what kind of guy was he intimately?
He actually was direct. When people say that Michael was shy, I understand why they say that, because there are moments when he was shy, but that wasn't his true nature. His true nature was not shy at all. He, when he spoke to me, he looked me directly in the eyes, and it could almost be intimidating, because I was really shy. I was more shy than Michael by far. But, he just looks you right in the eyes, and it kind of pierces your soul almost. And it would make me like kind of, uncomfortable, because I'm like, oh my God, he's just like looking straight through me. But yeah, he was very direct. I think that's something that people don't know about his personality. He would, if he wanted to know something, he would just ask you straight out. No beating around the bush, just straight to it. He's a Virgo too. So, they have certain type of person, very dynamic personality, and
perfectionist too. Yes, most Virgos I know are perfectionists. Yes.
So I think that people ask me like, what would they be surprised about if they knew, about Michael's personality? And I would say it's his directness, and his like, he wasn't really shy. He was shy in situations because people were, crowding around him and staring at him and trying to grab at him. But who wouldn't, be a little bit standoffish in those moments, but in private moments, he wasn't shy.
Yeah, it's funny you talk about your shyness, and that is something that I do remember about you when we worked together. No, seriously, and it's funny because you don't know if it's a person, if you're shy, or you're just like, you know what, I just don't bother with these people. But you were always, you were very much an introvert, and although we worked in a public setting, you literally, you did your job, you came back, you know, and that was the extent of that. And even making friends in that way. You didn't make friends there. You really showed up to do your job, and that was that. So
that's absolutely
it makes sense to me when I read the book. Oh, okay, so let's skip to your cast, like you said in the video, for the Addams Family. And like you said, later they called it Ghost. So what was that like working with him on set? Was he like the consummate professional? Was he like uptight, or was he a prankster? Like, what was he like working with him?
Oh my God. Well, Is This Scary? I guess we can break it up into two separate experiences. Is This Scary was the first one in 1993. And that one, I mean, it started off with normal Michael, and normal Michael on set is practical joke Michael, you know, laughing, having fun, just one of us. That was my first, you know, experience working with him in 93 on Is This Scary? So I didn't know what to expect. And I still remember the first day of shooting, I was standing there on set, and then he walks in with this cape on. He like had a cape on and a hood, and then he spotted me, and he was like, "Oh, howdy!" I was like, "Oh, wow! You know, what a great welcome, you know, from Michael." And then he came and stood next to me, and he was asking me what he was supposed to do, because he hadn't been there for the rehearsals, and I had. And I remember, like, right before the director called action, he whispered in my ear and said, "When am I supposed to turn around?"
Right.
Because I knew, like, when he was supposed to turn around, when he was supposed to say his lines. And he was asking me when he was supposed to do that. So I was thinking, oh, God, I hope I tell him the right thing, you know. But I whispered back to him. And then after that, like, all the other extras and actors were asking me, like, how do you know Michael? Why is he talking to you? Because he really wasn't talking to anybody but me.
Right.
So they were, like, really wondering. And then after a while, they asked if we were related, because I didn't tell anyone that I worked for his manager either until they started asking. But you know me, I've always been just very private, and I didn't thing until I had to. But yeah, he's just like so down to earth, so funny. Just I can't stress it enough. Just a human being, regular guy. And I think a lot of people can't get that through their head. He was just a regular guy. In person. On stage, of course, he was Michael Jackson, the king of pop. And when the camera started rolling, and when the lights started, you know, when the lights were bright, and the fog machine started.
Right. Lights, camera, action. Right.
He instantly became the king of pop, Michael Jackson. When just like a few minutes ago, he was standing next to me laughing and giggling about something stupid that had nothing to do with what we were filming. So there were two Michaels, and I think that's another thing that made him really intriguing, because not only was he this cool, sweet, nice, regular guy, but he was also superstar, king of pop, Michael Jackson, and you just couldn't help but be sort of drawn into him and his world when you were able to witness that in person, because it was something that you just don't see every day.
Yeah. I think you and I were having a conversation about this, is that because we live here in LA, we see celebrities every day. It's the norm for us.
Yep.
You know, and I think to your point, especially someone like Michael Jackson, who's this larger than life figure, people just want to put him in that box. And they don't want to accept the fact that first, he's human, a man. You know what I mean? Before he was all of those things. So yeah, I just think people just see him as this like outer world, you know, personality that they can't even imagine that, you know, he could be just a regular guy who liked eating maybe fried chicken or whatever it was that, you know, he said he liked. So, okay, so I want to switch gears a little. So we all know that I think it was in 1993 and in 2003, that's when the rumors came out about his indiscretions. And so during this time, you guys are friends. You guys are intimate friends. You've been in his life for a long time. Was there ever a point that you believed the rumors? Were you emphatic that they could not be true? And did you have conversations with him about them?
In 93, when the first allegations came out, I was actually with him on the set. We were filming Is This Scary? And that's why we didn't finish the film, because the Jordan Chandler allegations broke like right in the middle of filming that short film. And I saw him change. Like, at first he was this happy-go-lucky, funny guy. And then maybe about, I'd say 3 days into it, his eyes were just dead and just sad and depressed. And I was like, I wonder what's wrong with Michael. And then all of a sudden he just stopped showing up to the set. And that wasn't like Michael, because he was a perfectionist and he was very excited about this short film, Is This Scary? There was a lot of money invested in it. There was a lot riding on this short film. And for him not to show up, I knew there was something going on. And we were kind of left in the dark for a couple of weeks. But we tried to finish the short film without him, which was hard because he was a star and he was like in every scene. But we could. And actually what we did is on YouTube. You can go find it, Is This Scary? And it's all the scenes that we actually did.
Yeah, I've seen it. I see you in there, see you doing your thing. So yeah. Wow.
So after it broke, he left to go on the Dangerous tour, like right after that happened. And eventually he called and I told him, I'm here for you, Michael. I miss you. I can't wait for you to get back home. Because this was when he had like gone into hiding. He wasn't really calling anyone. No one knew where he was. This was after the tour kind of like got canceled because he couldn't go on. He was doing very badly. And I was so worried. But that's when I knew I had to say something. And I finally said, I love you. And I never said that to any man in my life. So
wow. Hold up, Shana. Hold up. We can't skip over this. So you guys are on the phone. You got to set up the situation for me. So you're on the phone. You're talking to him about, him being gone. He's doing this tour. And you just blurt this out.
I didn't know what to be honest. Because you don't know. You do know because you're old enough to have been there during that time. But it's terrible. Like, he was being called all kinds of names. And prior to that, he was like, Mr. Innocent, could do no wrong. Everyone loved him. And you would expect that the next day, suddenly he would just become like a monster in the public's eyes. And it was very difficult for me to deal with because I loved him, before telling him, of course I loved him. And I had grown to know him on that set, like right before this happened. And I was like, that's not the Michael that I know. He's not what the press is calling him. That's not him. It didn't even seem like the same person that they were talking about. And I just felt so sorry for him and bad for him. And I didn't know what to say. But I've been asking his managers, like, well, how's Michael doing? And they would tell me he wasn't doing well. And there were some nights when they didn't know if he would even make it through the night. So I was thinking, okay, when he calls, I have to say something just so that he knows that I'm still in his corner. So he called and he sounded so depressed. He was slurring his words, which concerned me. And I knew I had to say something. And so I said, I love you. And he immediately, well, not immediately, it was maybe like a 5-second delay. And I was worried. I was like, oh, God.
Right. Right.
Our biggest client, I love him. And then he said, I love you too. That's so much. He was so happy that I said that. And I can't wait for you to get home. And I miss you. And I said, and I'm always here for you. And he said, thank you so much. That is so, he was so relieved. And then he switched topics and went into the film, the short film that we had just filmed, Is This Scary? He remembered a scene that we had done and like was saying the lines that he had said in the film and that the other actor in the film had said. And it was a scene where the mayor, he played the mayor himself in Ghost, but in this 93 version, it was an actual actor. And the mayor of the town and his little son were there with us, the townspeople, to kick Michael out of town because we said a weirdo and he was scaring our children. And this scene that Michael had recounted was the one where the mayor was saying, you're scaring our children. And Michael bent down and asked the little boy, do I scare you? And the little boy shook his head, no. And then the mayor said, yes, you do scare him. You're scaring our children. And that's the scene that Michael remembered, said to me over the phone. And so I figured that was like Michael's way of telling me that's what's happening in this case as well.
Yeah, it's almost like it was a foreshadowing of, what was to come. When they say art imitating life, that video was, after they did that, that's when, everything started coming out. So that's really eerie. Really eerie.
Yeah, none of that had happened. And we were doing this video and it foretold everything that was going to happen.
Right.
Still like freaked out by that. Like at the time, I don't think I even realized it. But now that I look back, I'm like, wow, all that, we acted it out before it happened. We were calling him weirdo and, get out of town. You're scaring our children and a freak and all these things. Michael was standing right in front of me. And I had to yell those names at him. And then, like a couple of weeks later, the whole world was calling him those names. And it was a surreal experience, especially someone who was young like me. I was like, 23 when we did that film. And it was traumatic too, to go from, because before that happened, I really thought that, we had a chance because things were like growing naturally. And, it was just wonderful. So, and everyone who worked with in the office, they would call him my husband. Or my
husband, right? No, when I listened to you say that, I was like, wow, like, okay, so everybody could see the chemistry that you guys had, the friendship that you had developed. Yeah, and speaking of that, so let me ask you this, Shana. So you talk about the closeness that you guys had, knowing him intimately as well. Why do you think that he would then go on to marry Lisa Marie Presley and then have children with Debbie Rowe instead of you, especially given the fact that everyone in your camp was, they were trying to put you guys together. Why do you think this happened?
I don't know. That was another devastating moment because his managers had actually, and I had forgotten all about this, to be honest. I found the memo like a year or so ago from the National Enquirer. His managers had a meeting with the National Enquirer and they were like pushing me to be his public girlfriend. It was and so I was really excited, I thought this is it. But they just had to convince Michael to go along with it. It was works. And when this happened, it was still going to be, I remember they told me to get my passport ready because they were going to fly me over to be with Michael in wherever he was in hiding. So it was not only going to be like a private thing, but it was going to be like a public thing. And, for someone like me who had never been around this before, it was so exciting. It was like one of the most exciting times of my life. It was an emotional roller coaster because it was exciting, but at the same time, I was sad because I didn't know what was going to happen to Michael. So that's what I was expecting to happen. And then I see on the news one day that he got married to Lisa Marie. And I was like, what?
Wait, what? Right.
I wasn't that surprised because I knew they had been seeing each other. A lot of people didn't even know that they knew each other. But, I knew that they had at least developed a friendship. And I think she wanted a record deal with MJJ Records or something, and that's what they had been talking about prior to that. But then I see on the news he got married, and it was stunning. It was shocking. I didn't know what to say or do. I was thinking, gosh, when Michael calls, what am I going to say to him? Am I going to mention it or not? And I did mention it. I congratulated him, and we actually had a conversation, and he told me not to believe anything that I saw on the news. He said it's all publicity. Don't believe everything you see. It's just publicity.
So their marriage was a publicity stunt then?
Well, that's what he told me. My eyes are. I don't know if it was true.
Right.
Because what else could he say? But it worked because it made me feel better. I was like, oh, okay. Then I don't have anything to worry about. It's all publicity. No big deal. But, but I had heard from her camp that it was real. She really was in love with him and believed that it was real. So who knows? I still today don't know if he was telling me the truth, or I think it's somewhere in between, maybe in his mind. Not only was it publicity, but he liked her, and she definitely loved him. She used to call in the office a lot. So I talked to her a few times. But yeah.
Well, I just remember that awkward kiss that they shared and there was just, for me, there was just like no passion. There just was no chemistry. But I mean, who am I? I'm just on the outside looking in. But anyway, so I know that in your book, you kept saying that he kept telling you that you guys needed to keep this a secret.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why do you feel like he wanted to keep you a secret?
Well, obviously, you know, he had other things going on in his life that I didn't know about. But also, once the public finds out about something, it just becomes crazy. If they had found out anything about me, my whole life would have changed. And I don't know if in my mind, I was thinking, how could that be bad? This would be great, you know?
Right.
Tell the world. But he knew better because I was shy. I wasn't a public figure at the time. I was just a receptionist at his manager's office. So if the public found out about anything like that, you know, the press would have been all over me. And whereas I was the one who was fielding the press, I was the one that they were calling to try to get through to his managers. Mm-hmm. So I had to we both had to keep it like business, you know, it had to be like separate, business and private. So what we spoke about in private, he would always tell me not to even tell his managers that, you know, we had spoken or what we had spoken about. Mm-hmm. It was between us. And I remember him saying, you know, this is just between us, okay? You promise? I said, okay, I promise, Michael. So it was kind of like, I don't know, when you're in school and you make like a pinky square.
Right.
That like after every conversation, no matter what it was. So I just kind of got used to that. And when you're in that world, in the Michael Jackson world, it's like a bubble. You sort of forget what real life is like. That had become my world and my life, and it became normal for me. So when I look back on it now, I think, wow, I was really living an amazing, surreal life, and you don't realize it when you're in it. I see it now as like just unbelievable. It doesn't even feel like me, you know, anymore. It seems like it was another person. But yeah, it was a whirlwind, and it was a time that I know I'll never experience again. But Michael was a private person, and I know people are like, well, why did you write a book?
Yeah, because I was going to ask you that, because listen, one thing I will say about reading your book or listening to the audiobook, I was so impressed with the copious notes that you took in your diary. Girl, you had, what you call his perfume was Bella Versailles. You had dates. You had outfits that he may have had on. All the people that you were able to name and the events that you were able to recall. So in my head, I'm thinking, well, if she made all this up, she is really good.
That has to be really good, right?
Yeah, no, you have to be damn good for the details in the book. So when you're keeping this diary, Shana, are you keeping it in hopes to one day write a book, or was it simply cathartic for you? Was it just, or both? Were you just like, you know what, I need to release this, I need to put it on paper and get it out there? What was the impetus behind you writing the book?
I really just wanted to remember all these amazing moments that were happening to me. I started writing in my diary. I started a diary journal when I was about 12. And so I have things dating back to like 1982, you know, wow. that I was writing things, everything that happened to me from the time I was 12 until, you know, then. So that was just what I did. I was a very, I loved writing. But I know that writing would ever turn into a book. I just loved writing my feelings, my emotions. And that's how I kind of would, in my mind, figure out what to do next. Writing it down kind of, I don't know, it kind of helps you work through your own emotions, because sometimes you don't know what you're feeling. You just know that you're giddy, or maybe you're depressed and sad. Writing it down and then reading it the next day. I always loved like the next day when I could go back and read what I had written, because then you have a different perspective. You're kind of more on the outside. You're looking back on what you were thinking that day. And sometimes you're not thinking the same thing the next day. But thank God I wrote all that stuff down, because I would not have a book if I hadn't written it, because my memory is not that great, to be honest.
Right.
Because when I got to read my journals, I was like, that happened and this happened. I was surprised myself because I didn't remember a lot of it. And if you think about it, you don't remember a lot of what happened in your life unless you took a picture or you wrote it down or you took a picture. So, because back then we didn't have cell phones. So
no, there was no selfies. There were no cell phones. Shoot, we were just coming into the internet and all of that. So, you know, this is prior to all of that. So, okay, so they say hindsight is 20/20. Mm-hmm. What, if anything, would you do different? Would you have allowed yourself to kind of stay on this roller coaster with him? Because he would come in your life and then he would disappear and go on and do other things and then come back to you. What would you say to your 20-something-year-old self now?
I'm sure I would have done it the way. I was just been more smart about it. I've been as shy. Like if it were now, things would be much different. Back then, kind of let things slide, and I would be afraid to like bring up things to him or to, you know, start certain conversations with him. I let him lead every conversation we ever had. And because he was a talker, you know, he was good at talking and he loved talking. He loved being on the phone. He loved asking questions and finding out about me and or just people in general. He was a very inquisitive, very smart guy. So what I would have done different is just been less shy. Sometimes I feel like I just should have been like, I don't know.
More assertive with your voice.
That's a great, thank you, Tania.
You're welcome.
I'm a lot more assertive now that I'm older, but back then I had no assertiveness in me. I would just let pass me by or come to me, and that was it. And I do look back and I regret, you know, certain things that I didn't do or even that I did do. But, you know, hindsight is 20/20. We're only young once.
That's right.
That's the time to make mistakes.
Absolutely. And you've recovered well. So
thank you.
Okay. So what do you say to the skeptics, to the people that say, you know what, she's nothing more than just a super fan. She didn't really know him like that and just flat out don't believe you. What's your message to them?
Read the book. Because everyone that's read the book, they usually are like, oh my God, you know, at first I didn't believe you, but I read the book and now I see you couldn't make this up. Not only that, but as you said, here in LA, I work in the entertainment industry. We all have worked around entertainers. They're just regular people. And when you live here, it's not such a amazing or shocking thing that maybe you're friends with Michael Jackson or Elizabeth Taylor or whoever, you know, amazing it is. Beyonce, you know.
Yeah, we rub elbows every day. Yeah.
They're just people. And what fans don't realize is that they don't know what's going on in their, you know, favorite celebrities' lives on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, the camera shut off. Right. Absolutely. Exactly.
All they know is what they see, is what the celebrity wants to show them, basically. It's just like Instagram. We only post pictures that we want people to see. They don't know the other
cute ones.
And that's the same with celebrities. Only it's even more controlled there. And back then, they didn't have the internet, so it was very controlled what got out. So yeah, you don't really know a celebrity until you actually know them. And I was surprised. Getting to know Michael, I was like, wow, you know, this is just a person. This is just a guy. Sometimes it would just dawn on me, this is just a regular guy. And I think I would hope that fans would at least read the book first and then form an opinion instead of nasty and mean just right off the bat without giving it a chance.
Right. Well, wonderful. Okay, well, I just have a few questions left, and then we're going to open it up to the audience maybe and see if they have a couple of questions. So what have you been up to? You like I said, you know everybody. You've done some of everything. Can you tell the audience some of the things that you've been up to and what you're currently working on?
Oh, yeah. Currently I've been working with Hewett. He's the lead singer of the group Shalimar. And I was a big fan of Shalimar growing up too. So this is also like a dream come true to be able to work with someone that I've admired all of my life. I directed my first music video. It was his Christmas video. It came out in December. It's called That's Christmas. Check it out on YouTube. So I directed the whole thing, edited it, and filmed it all on my iPhone. So
damn.
Thing like that.
Go check it out. Okay.
Yeah. Sync up, you know, his vocals and all that. And we just finished a second video, so it might be my second directing assignment job for a new song that he has coming out next week. Actually, the video and the song are premiering next week, and it's called "To Thee I Pray." And it's another one that I did on my iPhone. I edited it, and it's going to be really powerful and cool. So look out for that next week. So I've been getting into a lot of like behind the scenes stuff, and with Howard, I'm kind of like, not only assisting his everyday life, but helping to manage his career as well. So I'm, back into that music management stuff, and I love it.
Nice. All right, guys, you guys can head over to my website at HeyLady by Tania, and that's with an I, and you can read Shana's impressive bio. The girl has done a little bit of everything, and like I said, she knows everybody. Okay, so the last two questions. In your book, each chapter, you start off with a quote. And so I have to ask you, what is your favorite quote? If not from the book, just personally, what's your favorite quote?
I would say it's the quote that my mother always instilled in me growing up, and that's "Go be your dream." And throughout my life, her voice is always ringing in my head. Go be your dream. And that's what I did. And I think if it were not for those words from her, I may not have had, the ambition to move out to LA without knowing anyone and just going after my dreams. Go be your dream. And I say that to everyone. If you have a dream, go for it. We only live once. You just have to figure out how you're going to get to that goal, because there is a way. There's a certain way. You can't be, you have to be focused, and you can't veer from that goal or that dream. Just keep going until you get it, and you will get it. You just have to persevere and never give up. It works. It really does. So yeah, go be your dream is my favorite quote.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I always say my mom, who's actually on this live, hi mommy, I always say she didn't give me the spirit of fear. And so when I decided to move to LA, she was like, go.
Good for you.
So if I can't say anything else to parents out there, don't plant that seed of fear in your kids. Like, let them go for it,
Right.
Let them try it, because if it doesn't work out, they can always come back home.
Right. You need that support. There, a lot of people
Absolutely.
It's a tough town. If you come out here and you don't have any support, and, you don't have that background of having a strong either family behind you or, a lot of friends who are there to support you, you're going to get eaten up by this town.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of ups, but there's a lot of downs, and the downs are very down. You can
absolutely,
or very low the next, and it never stops. Like even now, like I have days like that, and you have to go back. If you believe in God, you have to pray to God or read the Bible or call your mother, your father, whoever. You have to have some sort of support system, else you're just not going to make it. It's that simple.
Absolutely. Okay, and so my last question is the best advice ever given to you. You talked about your mom telling you to go live your dreams. What's the best advice outside of that ever given to you?
I would say always remain who you are. Don't let others dictate who you should be. So if you come to this town one way, a nice, sweet girl, don't leave this town, like some person that you don't even recognize, because you have to look yourself in the mirror every day. One thing that I kept, held, dear to my heart, and I still do, are my morals. I was always very cognizant of being someone that was respected, that people respected, that people liked. I was always friendly, never burn a bridge. That's another thing. Don't burn bridges, because you never...
Especially in this town.
And it comes back around. Like you and me, like I haven't seen you in, a few years, but, and that's because we had that bond from being friends years ago. And so that's the thing. It's like, keep your morals. Don't be one of the crowd. Be the person that people want to follow, that people want to look up to. That's very important to me. I would love to, mentor young girls. A lot of young girls write me all the time now who are, need advice or who are maybe going through troubles or problems. And I'm always there, to help, because I know how it is to be a young girl and to be confused. But I just wanted to make sure that people keep your morals, be a nice, good girl. Being a good girl is not out of style, even though you wouldn't know that from the music that's today. You don't have to be like everybody else. Be someone that people respect and look up to.
It's funny you say that because the tagline of HeyLady is being a lady never goes out of style.
That's so right.
I stick to that.
So love your message.
Absolutely. Okay, so real quick, let me go into the audience here and see if there are any questions. Let's scroll through. Can you scroll through and see if there's anything that you would like to address?
Let's see.
Caleb_Jenkins_2002. I like what he said. He said, Michael Jackson always said, good news doesn't sell to the media. They just seek out negative things. And we all know that. Nothing spreads faster than bad news or negativity. So let's see if there's anything else. Like respect, what she told you. I mean, just a whole bunch of comments in here. So
crazy comments. Maybe I don't want to read them.
Right. There's some crazy ones in there, but I think I addressed most of what a lot of people wanted to know. And if I didn't, guys, you guys can go pick her book up on Amazon. It is called Michael and Me, and they can also follow you. Shana, can you give them your Instagram handle?
Sure. It's Shana Mangatal, which is ShanaMangatal. Shana Mangatal. That's it. And I'm not on Twitter that much, but I'm on there. I'm Shana Mangatal. And then Facebook, I just got verified on Facebook. Woohoo! So it's Shana Mangatal with the blue check. So you see so yeah, come follow me on Instagram. I'd love to see you all there.
You're all right, Miss Blue Check. I love it. OMG, Shana, thank you so much for taking the time out to sit with me here this evening in the wine room. This was an amazing conversation. I just want to say thank you for your many, many years of friendship.
Thank you.
Thank you for remaining who you are, a sweet, loving, kind woman, and that's what I remember from 20 some odd years ago. So you are who you are. And also thank you everyone who joined us in the wine room this evening. I am here every Wednesday. I bring a phenomenal woman over the age of 40 into the wine room, and we talk about all different types of things. So I hope to see you guys back here next week for another edition of Wine Down Wednesday. But before we go, Shana, we're not going to let this wine go to waste.
Oh, I'm going to be drinking it.
Pick it up, girlfriend. Clink. Take a sip. All right, guys. And I will see you all next Wednesday. Thanks, Shana. Have a good night. Bye.